What is umbrella insurance? As an insurance agency, this is one of the most common questions that we get. Let me explain this to you like you're a first grader. When your insurance coverage reaches the limit of what it's able to cover financially, umbrella insurance is there to cover any additional costs. Now, one of the most common examples of this is, say you're in a car accident where you're at fault. The person in the other vehicle ends up passing away. You could very well be sued for a lot of money. Now, your insurance coverage will only cover up to a certain amount. That's called your liability limit. Now, if you have umbrella coverage, that would help cover beyond what your existing liability limit is able to cover. That way you don't end up paying excessive amounts of money out of pocket for medical bills or lawsuits that may come against you. Let me explain a bit more how this works. These numbers are called your liability limit. I'm sure you've seen them before if you've ever purchased a car insurance policy. The first number pertains to how much you're covered for bodily injury for one person. In this case, $250,000. The second number is how much you're covered for bodily injury to everyone in the other vehicle that you hit. In this case, $500,000. And that final number, $250,000, that's your property damage coverage. An umbrella policy will give you $1 million on top of the liability limits that you have on your car or homeowner's insurance policy. Now, typically when someone passes away in a car accident and the family hires a lawyer, the lawsuits usually end up around $1 million against the person who was at fault in the accident. Now, if this were happen to you or your son or daughter and you were to be sued for $1 million, your insurance company would pay the liability limit, but you'd be liable to cover the rest. And that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. In certain states, if you have assets such as a retirement account, equity in a home, or savings in the bank, all of that could be seized and taken away from you to settle the claim. And if you don't have the assets, then the court could order your wages to be garnished until the settlement is paid back. In other words, 25% of your disposable income can be taken out of your paycheck every month and paid towards the settlement. I read an article recently about a 17-year-old who was driving home on a rainy night, ended up hydroplaning from his side of the highway into oncoming traffic, and it caused a multi-vehicle collision. There were several major injuries, including one of the drivers who ended up being partially paralyzed. Several of the parties involved ended up filing lawsuits against the family of the 17-year-old, and his family ended up owing $10 million as a result of this lawsuit. The only good news in all of this was the 17-year-old's family had purchased enough umbrella coverage to cover everything. So what this all comes down to is you don't want to be caught without umbrella coverage. And it's actually surprisingly very affordable. In most cases, it costs as little as $20 to $30 a month to get $1 million in coverage. So to answer the question, who should carry an umbrella policy? Everybody who drives a car should have an umbrella policy. Keep in mind that umbrella coverage also extends to injuries that happen on your property, boat accidents, if somebody's suing you for slander. In most cases, an umbrella policy will have you covered. So honestly, I think the only reason to not have an umbrella policy is if you're not even aware that they exist, which now you do, so I recommend you get one. It could mean the difference of buying your dream home, paying for your child's college, or being stuck living paycheck to paycheck and having your assets seized until you're able to pay back the settlement, which could be decades. So if you want to make sure that you are totally covered in case something like this ever happens to you, go to cityhillinsurance.com, reach out to a City Hill Insurance agent, and we'll make sure you are all taken care of. Thanks for watching.